Okay, so layouts. If you're going to do a Magento install, this is probably the first thing you're going to want to do for a client. They're going to say, we want it to look different. You might not need to develop a custom module if you're just, if you're setting up somebody to sell shoes or sell clothes or all the stuff that Magento supports natively. The first thing your customer is going to ask you to do is they want to change the layout. So common MVC frameworks, what they're going to do is you're going to set some variables in a view, you render the view in a placeholder, and then you render the layout, putting that view into the layout. And that's how most MVC frameworks are going to work. Actually, what that does is, so say you have like an AJAX request, you're not going to load the layout or render the layout. So you save that time. You can just return a JSON response. Most of the time, though, you are going to, you're going to render your layout. Magento doesn't really have the concept of the view. The layout is a nested structure of, nested structure of structure and content blocks. So structure blocks would be like your head section of your HTML or the body section or the content of the body section. Those are structure blocks. Content blocks would be things like in the content structure, you're going to output the product images, and then you're going to output the product description, and then you're going to output the product price, and then the add to cart button. So those would be considered content blocks. This isn't a formal definition, so if you look at the code in Magento, they're not going to distinguish between a structure and a content block, but if you're doing a layout, you kind of want to think in those terms, and it helps you to organize the blocks better. You can change the layout. And when I say change the layout, I mean you can add blocks, remove blocks, and so forth. You can do that in your action method, but it's way more common that you're going to have XML files in your theme that add blocks, remove blocks, add JavaScript, and do all that sorts of things. So catalog category default is what's called a handle in Magento. Handles are the set of the pieces of the layout that are going to get loaded on a particular page request. So in the catalog category default, what I'm saying here is I'm going to reference the left structure block and add this catalog navigation block. I'm going to put it after the currency block and use this template. This one's very similar. I'm just saying core template name foobar and give it a template name. Blocks are PHP classes. So you're going to see in your module code you're going to have blocks, and basically what those are is they provide standard they're standard PHP classes with methods that assist your template in getting data, determining system status, like is what store we're in, or anything else that you can ask about the Magento subsystem. You do that in your block classes. Templates are PHTML files, basically just a mixture of HTML and PHP code. The next line there, it says templates are blocks in quotations. What that means is that when you're in a PHTML file that's implementing a template, this is actually an instance of the block class. So that's how you call functions in the block class, is because the template is actually an instance of the block class. So let's see. So this would be a snippet of template code. You can see that I do product collection equals this get loaded product collection. So that's a function that's available in this block. And then I can say if product collection count. So if I have products, then, this one says if I don't have any products, echo there are no products matching the selection. Obviously you'd have your else case here would be if I do find products, then you would do whatever you want with those products. Nested blocks. The point of this slide is to show that this is one of the main templates that would be loaded for one of your requests. So basically, the first template that gets loaded has to include all the nested blocks that it wants to load. So the main way you do that is you do get child HTML. There's some other methods in there. You can tell it to dump all the all the child blocks in one method call. But normally what you're going to do is arrange the child blocks in the order that you want them to. So you get the child HTML of the head, and you get the child HTML of the content, before, body, end, and so forth. Now your content is, when I say nested, what that means is the content's going to do something very similar and start adding all the blocks that it wants to use for the content. So the layout object is an XML object, defines what blocks should be rendered, defines what blocks should kick off the rendering process. The two ways that you would normally override the layout is if you're doing just a standard Magento install, no customization, you can put a local layout file in the Magento, where Magento stores its layout files. The reason you want to put a local layout file in there is that it won't be overridden the next time you upgrade Magento. So your local layout file will be there after you do an upgrade. If you put it in their code, then the next time you upgrade, you would have to duplicate those changes. Modules also usually have a layout file. So in the module configuration, you'll see things like front end layout updates your module XML. There could also be admin HTML instead of front end, and that's how it would load layout files for the backend, the admin backend. So this would be an example of your module XML. So here's how this would be basically saying, for the default handle, which is default is loaded on every page request, the root, I want to set the template to be one column. So that's one way you could change which layout file is going to be the root of all your page requests. You can also do this in the backend configuration as well. Here's how you would add some custom CSS and JavaScript. So you just tell Magento to, in the head section, I want to add CSS and add JavaScript. Then instead of doing the default handle, you can specify a different handle and say on the catalog category default, any page that uses the catalog category default handle, I'm going to remove the title from the breadcrumbs container and I want to re-add it back in here using a different template. So you can do things like that. Very, very flexible. So here's Alan Storm. If you start browsing around Magento on the internet, you're going to find this guy's name. He's got a lot of knowledge base articles and tutorials. And one thing he did is he gave us this handy layout viewer module. And it basically shows all these things I've been talking about.